Okay, so now that we know what the core breath is and how to diaphragmatically breathe, we're going to talk about how to apply these two things to the exercises that you're doing in your plan. I know this can seem like really specific and particular, and I don't necessarily want you to overthink it, but the first general rule of thumb that we can always go by is to match the engagement with the intensity of the exercise. So if you're doing a light bicep curl, or you're sitting, maybe it's lighter weight, something like a raise with your arm, you don't necessarily need to be engaging your core as hard as you can while you're doing them. You're going to kind of intertwine the diaphragmatic breathing with the core breath. So when the weight is heavier, or anytime that you feel like you need more engagement to regulate the pressure in your abdomen, you can apply the core breath more methodically and really try to engage it with more focus. So like something like a lateral raise. I'm sitting here and I'm raising my arms. I can just breathe through this, and again, it's that diaphragmatic breath, not focusing on it too much. Now let's say I'm doing a bicep curl, and all of a sudden the last couple reps might get hard. I might engage my core a little bit more, like I might focus on it a little bit more towards the end if it's starting to get hard to lift it, if I feel like I'm compromising more than just my biceps to lift. Like I don't want to sacrifice my form, but let's say it's just getting a hair harder and I need a little bit more like my trunk needs to support me better. I might, while I'm curling up, I'll exhale and kind of wrap my TVA in and help me with those last couple reps. Something like a squat is a more of a full body movement. You're going to incorporate the core breath a little bit more specifically. I'm going to squat. I'm going to inhale on my way down and exhale, wrap my TVA in, pull my pelvic floor up as I am standing. So for that exhale portion of the movement, where I'm exhaling, I can match that with the part of the movement that feels like the part where I'm engaging my muscles, or the part that's hard. So like a chest press would be, if I'm starting here, I'm going to come down, inhale, exhale, wrap my TVA in, pull pelvic floor up. Because when I'm pushing is when I'm resisting against my body. So the resistance part, or the part of the exercise where you're giving your body the workout component, that's when you're going to exhale and activate your core. So that's kind of a general rule of thumb, is to match the intensity of the engagement with the intensity of the exercise. One thing that you always want to watch out for is just the regulation of the pressure in your abdomen as you're doing any movement. So always feel free to modify. If you're modifying, it's nothing to be shameful about. You're just keeping yourself safe throughout your pregnancy and doing what's best for you. So have you feel like you have good regulation in your core and you don't notice any coning during any of the exercises that you're doing, that's 2 thumbs up to keep going. But the second that we notice any coning or peaking in our abdomen, that would be pressure pushing into our linea alba, creating pressures that aren't controlled, that's when we want to modify. So it might be giving yourself a source of more stability or balance. Maybe you're putting your hand on a wall, or maybe you're going down to your knees, or maybe you're sitting instead of standing. Those are a couple ways you can modify an exercise, but anytime that you're coning, you just want to make sure that you modify to protect your core, because you want to be in control the whole time. And there's a lot of noise around what's safe with core work and exercise in pregnancy in general, but if you can follow that rule of thumb, where if I'm not coning and I'm regulating my pressure correctly, then I am good to go. So visually you can see it. If you're doing an exercise and you're coning, that would be a sign to modify. The second sign to modify, or to keep the exercise safe for you, would be if you are leaking urine as you're doing the exercise. That would be also a sign to modify. That would mean there might be a little bit too much pressure in your pelvic floor. It's not quite regulated. If we go ahead and modify, you're gonna be able to control that better and keep yourself in a safe position. So any leaking, go ahead and modify. And then the third one is any uncomfortable pressure at all. So if you feel like on your pelvic floor it's really heavy, or you don't feel like you're in complete control of engaging your core as well as best you can during a certain movement, modify and try again. So following those 3 rules of thumbs, there are 3 P's, the coning with like the peaking and the peeing and the pressure. So those are your 3 things to follow as you're doing any of the exercises.